like if there's matter and antimatter, there's chicken jockey and anti-chicken jockey, right? I think the thing we need to do now is one, probably brainstorm macro ideas. Maybe I explain to y'all some of the priorities that I want to have. Also, not just explain, really solidify for myself some of the priorities I want to have with this riddle. Probably want some sort of endpoint. I find that creating those aha moments is best done with a culmination of a final big, product. I think the most relatable example of that is, when you finish an escape room, you escape the room, which this will not operate exactly like an escape room. Like I don't want it to feel that way, but it will hold the principle or the element of there are many puzzles that can probably be solved in more than one order, but they ultimately result in like the best escape rooms have new rooms, or unexpected twists, and then like a final end result. So we will take some of those principles, but I definitely don't want this to feel like, well, there are 12 puzzles, and I can't solve this one until I solve this one and get a piece for this. Like we can do some of that like blocking, but I don't want it to feel like that. Does that make sense? Maybe it doesn't. Regardless, let's start with some guiding principles. Satisfying. Actually, you can even break that down to like finding the puzzle, solving the puzzle, discovering twists. So yeah, like satisfying aha moments. They'll come from when you find, oh look, I found a puzzle in a place where I was or was not expecting it. Solving the puzzles, obviously, the aha moment of, and here's the thing, right? Like I think there is some satisfaction that comes from, oh, look, it's a Sudoku puzzle. I know all of the rules. I just have to put everything together until I figure it out. And I'm not going to have zero puzzles like that, but I prefer puzzles that kind of have that aha moment, even in the recognition of how you're going to solve it. Think more like, I don't know if everyone had this experience, but those books of like brain teasers or like brain twisters, like the riddle, the stupid that Dr. Riddle, like the son and the father crash in the mountain, and the person, they go to a doctor and the doctor says, I can't help this person is my son, and how could they be your son? Oh, it's the mother. Like that kind of, once you kind of shift your perspective, then the puzzle clicks, right? I like puzzles the most that figuring out the mechanic or the perspective necessary to solve the puzzle is the aha moment in itself. And then there's, of course, the satisfaction of getting it correct at the end. Well, I think that's kind of what I mean by discovering twists here. Puzzles contribute to bigger meta puzzle or story. Like, I don't know if I would rather do these 6 puzzles, give you the 6 pieces necessary to solve the final puzzle, or if it would be more fun to do some sort of story arc. The story arc would probably be more interesting. I don't know how capable I am of building that. We'll find out. I think it would be fun to create some stakes, but obviously there's an aha moment or an exciting moment when you realize that the smaller stuff is leading to a bigger thing. So yeah, I think satisfying aha moments, as I said, that's the guiding principle. Other guiding principles, there's this concept. I want the puzzles to like push perspective or like broaden the perspective. So basically what I mean by broaden their perspective is, what are the boundaries of a puzzle? Like that, like you think the boundaries of the puzzle are, reading books that take you to a set of coordinates, and that's where you find the solution, right? And that's your boundary, right? That's what the boundary we set with the first puzzle, let's say. And then you get to the second puzzle, and the second puzzle requires you to go back to the original realm save and compare the two realms. Now your boundaries of what is possible to solve this puzzle has been broadened. And then puzzle 3, I give them some sort of information that they need to go and Google something in order to find information necessary to solve the puzzle. Now you've broadened the boundaries of what the puzzle can possibly be a third time, right? So broadening, let's say broadening boundaries as they progress, the realm of possibility widens. I think that's just a great way to kind of tell a story, right? Like it keeps the brain chugging, it keeps you guessing, it keeps you thinking out of the box, but it also just makes the experience feel bigger and bigger and bigger. The other principles, I want all the puzzles, and I don't know how to say this either, which maybe I can just walk myself into it like I did that last one, but I want the puzzles to be solvable. Like, I want them to be difficult, but I don't want them to be hard. I don't want the challenge of a puzzle to just be pure complexity. Or, for example, I would hate for a puzzle to be, well, I understand how to solve it, but now I have to spend 2 hours deep diving into a Wikipedia page, or I have to dig down 2,000 blocks to find this thing. Like, I think unless the point of the puzzle is a more physical element, like how are you going to travel 50,000 blocks quickly? Like, that's impossible to do unless you utilize some sort of tactic. Like, if that is the puzzle in itself, like a more physical challenge, all in for that. But I definitely don't want puzzles to be difficult for the sake of difficulty. Finding the correct mechanic, like for that to be difficult, all in on that. But I don't want like puzzles to become busy work. Finding the key or mechanic can be subtle or a little occluded, but never overly complex or time consuming. My English teacher would hate that I have one bullet underneath my bullets and my sub bullets, but that's fine. Sorry, Miss Bohr. Any other guiding principles here? I think I would like for each puzzle to use a unique mechanic. And of course we can build on mechanics, like, oh, we're taking the same mechanic and twisting, but I don't think I want puzzles that use the same mechanics over and over. Because again, I think the huge aha moment is discovering how a puzzle works. The subtext of this could be mechanics complement different strengths. Meaning, you know, I have, let's see, I don't know everyone who's going to end up wanting to solve the puzzle, you know, in front of a potential audience, but I've got 4 siblings, plus we've got 2 significant others, plus a cousin, plus a friend. And there's a variety of personalities and brains, and so I would love to have different mechanics maybe accent the different strengths that the team is bringing to the table. I think that would be fun to make sure different people get to kind of take the lead if they would like, and include them or incentivize their inclusion as much as possible. Cool. I think these are decent. I think we might come up with new ones as we go here. So now let's talk about really scope. Again, this may change, but I think if I want them, I mean, I'd love for them to do this in one session, but who knows, right? It may take more than one session, but let's assume we can get one 4-hour session put together, or a 6-hour session. Probably 8 to 12 puzzles. It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. I kind of wanted to have more pieces to it than that. Because I think it's something that's really fun about the Zelda games, for example, is a lot of times you will be given an objective it's like 3 temples, 4 temples, and you beat the 4 temples and you fight the boss, and it's like, oh, guess what? Like, there are 4 more temples before you fight the final boss. I like that kind of split in half idea. So I think it would be fun to have like a meta puzzle. They solve all the pieces to the meta puzzle. They finish that one and they realize they've been opened up into a bigger world of even more puzzles. So let's go with that. So let's say to have 2 sections, 4 to 6 puzzles. The goal: to introduce mechanics, challenge them to think out of the box, get through the discovery. Meaning, like, you know, in these first puzzles, it will be what they can see, right? As they just walk around the world, check things out. These are the puzzles. These first, 4 to 6 puzzles, for the most part, will be what they can see. Solves first meta puzzle, opens to bigger meta puzzle. Second half, 4 to 6. Not harder, but let's say twistier. Play on original mechanics. I have this idea of like, and again, I don't think this would be a perfect principle, but rather just something that would be fun to do half the time, maybe, is have the second half of puzzles be kind of hidden in plain sight, having pretty much all of the first half, the first 4 to 6 puzzles be, oh, look, it's a sign that says puzzle 1, and there's an obvious puzzle sitting right in front of me, and having most of those be that way, and then have at least some of the new ones be, hey, you've walked past that fountain 30 times, but with the context of either an old mechanic or maybe like information given to you when we introduce the bigger meta puzzle. Oh, the terracotta texture underneath the fountain is actually put in such a way that there's a puzzle here. I'm not sure how clear that is. It'll be clear as we build, but I think it would be really fun for them to have walked over the same place 1,000 times and not realized it was a puzzle until they were given some extra context, right? Or even like that thing that can happen where like someone says 100 times, hey, I think these tiles might mean something, and then they can't really tell what it means until they get to the second meta puzzle, right? Hide a couple in plain sight. Spike the difficulty for a couple. Most extreme or boundary pushing ideas exist in these puzzles. Got our guiding principles, kind of our 2 sections. I think the last thing we need to do map here before we go and actually map out what some of these individual riddles might be is what the conclusion, what the final result is going to be. And I don't know, like it could be something crazy, and I may need people to help me know if some of this stuff is even possible in Java. Like it would be really fun, like to just like finishing the puzzle just blows up everything, you know, or you know, have, you know, maybe the storyline is everything has been corroded and deformed, and I can like corrupt all of our builds, you know, like break into them and like replace them with like uglier blocks, or kind of make it look like things are decrepit or are being eaten away at all across this build. And even though my siblings would probably have like some idea that I have this is in our actual realm, I like copied and pasted our realm, that, you know, they could suspend disbelief, right, for a second. It would be funny, or I think a big epic moment if they're fighting to save their build from this decay, but then the final puzzle like seems to blow it up, all hope is lost, but then actually it was an alternate reality and just over the ridge untouched version of the map exists or something. I don't know. Maybe that idea will have to come to us as we start building here, but I think it'd be helpful to at least have an initial concept. My fears about the one I just pitched. One, I don't know if Java has the kinds of, because I know in Bedrock on the PC you can copy and paste large swaths of saved textures, and I know you can do all sorts of stuff like that. I don't know how much of that functionality I even have access to on the Xbox. But, and then of course my other fear with that idea is how much time is it going to take to aesthetically make everything fit that. But I mean, maybe it's worth it, right? Maybe that aesthetic would be really enriching to the experience. And you know, there's always tropes we could lean on. Save the princess trope, but do we even have anyone we really like in this world? I don't think we have like a beloved figure in this world. We kind of hate it, the villagers, and we kind of hate the animals, especially the chickens. Ooh, maybe the chickens are the villain. Chickens are taking over the world. Okay, this is so stupid, but it does have some synergy with like Chicken Jockey, right, or whatever. So maybe the meta is the chickens are taking over the world, and it's up to you to stop them. And solving the meta puzzle gives you the key to a magic spell that eradicates chickens or something. Now, as far as like a big final moment, do I have the capacity of just like killing all the chickens on the server? I don't know if that's something I can even do. I do like this meta though. I think this meta is enough. I think the meta of chickens as bad guys or evil, I think there's a lot of meat on that bone. Literally, like fried chicken on that bone. I think there's a lot of meat on that bone for like the kind of lore and world building that, because really that's what I need, right? I need the puzzles to have some lore, and I need them to have like a direction, like a themed direction. To me, that's a funny enough idea that I know is going to hit with my siblings, because I guess to explain further, just the uselessness of eggs in Minecraft has just pissed all of us off. Why can you cook so few things with eggs? Like, why can you not compost eggs? Eggs have such little functionality in this game, except for to annoy one another by throwing them at filling each other's bases with chicken. Chickens serve as like an effective villain for my siblings, and I think it's an easy enough thing that we can really make lots of puns, lots of lore. So I'm gonna write that down, even though it's gonna look really ridiculous. Something very dramatic like that, right? Solving the puzzles will reveal either a secret spell or weapon or tool to stop their uprising. That allows us to then maybe spawn tons of chickens, do like spawn tons of chickens, and then I don't know what else there could be. There's probably like a chicken painting. Upon revealing second half of puzzles, increase amount of chickens, or add some sort of egg-based obstacle. Basically thinking, how do we build a story around this? As you raise the stakes, you want to do so with some tangible obstacles. So I don't know what those are going to look like yet, but just knowing like the North Star is just going to keep us balanced as we build all these riddles, right? So at this point, I guess I'm going to flip back and forth, but so I usually use this for DMing, actually, DMing D&D, but I'm going to use Miro. I'm not here to promote any corporation ever, but I like them for their mind maps, and so I'm going to use this for us to keep track of these different riddles, how they might interrelate, if there's any sequencing that needs to go on, that sort of thing. The final puzzle, of course, is save the realm from chickens. So that'll be the final puzzle, right? I'm showing all you this, but I'm actually not going to write anything down yet because I don't really have that many ideas. I would love to kind of walk back around the world and start getting ideas that are kind of synergistic between our guiding principles, as we've talked about here, and the actual things in the world that we're going to build off of. I think the first question that we can ask ourselves is, where are we going to start them? I'm not sure whether this is the best spot to start them or not. I think it could be, in the sense of we could tell a story, right? Like you just returned from a long trip only to discover a note on your door and, dozens of chickens surrounding it. We could have like a sign here and we could kind of like slowly introduce the lore. But what that basically allows us to start doing immediately is decide, one, where do we want our major, because we're going to have some sort of like central point where these meta riddles take place, right? Essentially having an introduction to the concept of, hey, you have to go and solve X amount of things to get this solved. Maybe I should not like overload the server like from the get-go, but I do think them walking up on this will be very funny. So I set the spawn point. So they will basically spawn right here, and they're gonna look around them and immediately understand like the core theme, right? So we're gonna have them walk in, open the gate, which I'm not gonna bother to do. And I'll write the signage. I think we'll write out the words for the lore as we go here. I'd like to have some time to play with it, just like as I'm, starting to build stuff, and then we can kind of just decide what kind of like tone we want. But so walk in, still lots of chickens, maybe some sort of like chicken statue, which I'm not actually gonna build. I'm just gonna build like something that's gonna remind me. There you go. Okay. So we'll have some sort of like indicator here, right? As they walk in to their base surrounded by chickens. Some sort of like indication of like this place has been taken over by chickens, right? With probably some sort of like ominous sign. They're free to explore a little, but I do want to have some sort of visual guide that will lead them to like the meta puzzle, right? Which maybe I'll just replace Isaac's XP spawner, because this is kind of an open spot. Like I don't have a lot I necessarily want to do with this thing. What's the easiest way to, is there an easier way for me to destroy all this? This is so trippy for my brain. I'm like actively experiencing anxiety that like I'm permanently destroying this, even though this is very much a copied world. But it just feels bad to just like destroy someone else's work, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think I want some sort of visually nice structure. That's not something we'll probably build today, but I'm trying to think of what Minecraft mechanics would allow us to do this, but like allow them to like basically pull 4 to 6 pieces of a puzzle. Of course, we can do that from an information standpoint. Like obviously, like we could do like 6 pieces to like a password, right? But I guess I don't even know what mechanics of Minecraft allow you to do passwords. And of course we can do some rigging. I then manually open something when they get everything right, but I think that's less satisfying. I think those aha moments feel a lot better when there's a decent amount of production involved. When things work on their own, it feels a lot better than, oh, we said the right words, so Steven clicked the button that allows this to work. So if you have thoughts for any like mechanics in Minecraft that might be interesting, because I know I can probably do some stuff with redstone, but I just don't know, like that's not the part of this game that I've really spent a ton of time with. I would love something where either each puzzle gives them a key that they need to unlock, or maybe if they had to put in the right, like a combination of clicks or button presses or turns, or those kinds of, like if you were going to finish a puzzle in like an escape room, for example, you would either get the right number combination or word combination, or you would get a key that worked. Those kinds of things, right? Like I want something to where each of these 6 puzzles gives them a piece that like when they finish completing all 6 puzzles, they either receive the right combination of words and numbers or the right combination of keys that allows them to like quote unquote solve the meta puzzle. And then we can work with whatever those mechanics are, we can work with how to make it make sense lore-wise. That's not really, the lore is not the lore is just the backdrop to what actually matters, which is the puzzle. So I think something else we could probably do is have like a visual signifier for puzzles, because it allows us to do a couple things. One, when we don't want them to get endlessly stuck looking for puzzles, we can have like an obvious visual indicator, right? Let's say we pick a certain block type and we build this like first meta puzzle area out of that block type. They're going to associate that block type with the puzzle, right? Which kind of like allows us to highlight things elsewhere in the world, but it also allows us to play with that expectation after some time and not mark a puzzle or some puzzles with that same visual indicator. So it just gives us a lot of room to kind of play with expectations, but it also allows us to be helpful when we want to be helpful, right? So let's think of a block that we find, like maybe a combination of blocks, a primary block and an accent block. I think this would be a nice accent block, that purple. It's pretty visually distinct. I don't think there's a lot of purple going on in our world. I mean, there's like the cherry blossoms, of course, but I think otherwise we don't have a ton of purples. And then a more subtle primary color. Gilded Blackstone, kind of sick with it. It matches the purple. It definitely screams like this is significant. I suppose as long as we know that we're going to use this purple, that the rest of it is it's a little bit less important, right? Because as long as the visual indicators are there, like the aesthetic of it, like could be done in the future. I think if that's the case, I want to go with my gut for now and just use this Gilded Blackstone for now. Obviously we can add accents to it, or if absolutely necessary, replace it. And kind of there'll be a path, kind of build out a relatively large building, because we're probably going to put a lot in it. I just want to get a basic framework so I can kind of visualize how things are going to all fit together. So that's the doorway, and then we'll go 10 wide each side. So we'll have a room like this. You may even have stairs that go up into like a second floor, and then we can probably build some stuff underneath it. That would be helpful. Basic concept is the first thing that they're going to actually interface with is going to be this, right? And it will be, Holy Temple-esque. Think Legend of Zelda, like this is the temple where you receive like the Master Sword eventually, but for now you don't get the Master Sword or whatever. That kind of vibe, right? I don't even know if I can like set a music box to go off when they walk in that plays like a more serene song. But effectively, this will be their introduction. Again, they might run around and try to look at stuff, and that's fine. This will be the actual like centerpiece for where they interface with riddles, and again, some sort of mechanic in Minecraft that allows us to like bring the 4 to 6 puzzles back to here. So I think that our best bet is to start getting a few core ideas down. And I think as we we can map out the first half, and maybe we have 1 or 2 ideas that go to the second half. But the way I see this kind of flowing is map out this first half, really get it nailed down from like a overarching standpoint, and then start working on specific puzzles, and then move on to the second half from there. I think it's probably pretty like immediately will be easy to pick a few points of interest that we want to put the puzzles in. Like I think that's it. Like and I think that there is probably a little bit of expectations to be played with by maybe putting a puzzle in a couple. Like putting like a second half or an unobvious puzzle in some of the most obvious places. I think it lends to that kind of aha moment when it's like, well, I checked the castle 50 times, and then it's only after they get new information they can do the castle puzzle. But I do think there's a few places that are the right amount of relevant but obscure, if that makes sense, or maybe out of the way, that make them very like prime first half puzzle locations. I think that this third floor, I feel like this is an obvious location for a puzzle. I think it is the right amount of unused, but still like whatever, aesthetic and like central. So let's do that for sure. I think the lighthouse puzzle, just because I think there's so many mechanics to potentially work with in this thing, I think it's a great position for a first half puzzle. Oh, I do think we won't go all the way there, but I do think the Enchanter Tower that's like way out in the swamps, I think that's a great place because far away, but like still a major build. Great. Okay, and then probably every place doesn't have to be like the most significant point of interest. Maybe places they'll stumble across. I do obviously want to do something in Mumbai. Where would I put it? Maybe we might just be able to write Mumbai for now, and then I could probably create some sort of stark visual indicator as you walk down into Mumbai, into the unfinished Mumbai, and like there's a crazy like purple tower or like structure, or there are like so many chickens, or like even like I can have a thing just like shoot eggs, be constantly shooting eggs. I mean, I think this area is some of the most interesting and fun, so would probably put it around here, but we've decided that we've got 4 pretty solid spots, I think, for first half. Puzzles, 3rd floor of the Villager House, Lighthouse, middle of Mumbai somewhere, and then the Enchanter Tower, which of course you can't see. I think that's good spots. I do think 6 puzzles per half is probably smart. And I'm also wondering if there would be some fun little, like, less linear, like, side puzzle, Easter egg style puzzles that we can kind of throw in if we have any ideas that just don't end up making the cut. Anyway, let's do at least 6 per half, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, 7 people who have been on this realm relatively actively. So assuming at least 6 of them play, I think 6 puzzles per half. There will be a lot of minds at work, and they might want to split up and do like 2 puzzles, right? So that's 4. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun and easy to do a puzzle in here. Easy to build, maybe not easy to solve. So I think a storage room. I think there's a bunch of puzzle ideas in here. Relatively straightforward. That place might take them a second to find, but it's not going to be that hard to find. Lighthouse almost feels too obvious. Mumbai, we're going to give them a visual indicator. The storeroom is not that obvious, but I think so central that it will be hard to not walk in here and notice whatever I put in here, a sign or whatever. Enchanter is very non-obvious, and so it will definitely be a stretch, but I think it's good to have a couple stretch puzzles. Like, you don't want everything to be immediately clear. I think, again, there are aha moments that come from, oh, what if you went all the way out to the Enchanter's Tower? And like, I want to reward that kind of discovery, that kind of search. I think the greenhouse might be it's a nice point of interest. It might make a good part 6 puzzle. The stable, maybe. And then, of course, I think Camden and Isaac have both built pretty compelling houses that might be fun to put a puzzle into. Oh, and the treehouse as well. So of all of those, I think we've done, so much over here. I think greenhouse is a great 6th location for a puzzle. That being said, where should we start? And I'm having an idea. I'm just going to do these brainstorms as they come to me. Otherwise, I will forget them. For the second half, because this is a relatively goofy story arc. And so I think that it serves the story well to start goofy, right? And so all the locations that we have chosen, they're random, they're major points of interest. It feels very light, high fantasy, like the stakes are still low, even though we're pretending like the stakes are high. I would love to, part of that flip from first half to second half, have a darker turn and maybe have the stakes actually feel a little higher. I'm not sure how to execute that yet, but so when they finish this, it feels like, oh, da-da-da-da. And then, when they finish that puzzle, something happens either narratively or mechanically that raises the stakes. And when the stakes get raised, then it might be fun to start. I think it would become thematically relevant to start doing, like, we could do bits on like their internal lives. If we put a puzzle in each of their homes, Isaac's home has a puzzle in it, and of course not in like a very serious way, but like have jokes that are like at least like passingly relevant to like his life or like his style as a builder, some sort of like introspective journey. You're so focused on the details, like you don't see the big picture. Something made up, right? That's not a real critique of Isaac, but rather narratively would be like a way to build themes around the puzzles that feels a little more serious and dark. And then we can knock out in the second half like a puzzle in Isaac's house, a puzzle in Camden's house, a puzzle in Peyton's house, a puzzle in Emma's house, a puzzle in Lauren's house, a puzzle in Anthony's house. I mean, honestly, that's the 6. And maybe those puzzles lead them to other parts of the map, but like we really could do a puzzle in every person who's built a house's house, right? I'm actually just gonna go ahead and write that down because I actually really like what I'm thinking here. And we're not really gonna focus on that for now. We're gonna stay focused on these ideas, but why is my mouse, why is my mouse on the screen no matter what I do? That is so wild. That's probably been so annoying this whole time. So let's start with something that feels the most compelling. This is kind of a blank canvas. And so when I have a compelling idea that doesn't have like something context driven, this would be a great spot. Actually, what we really need to ask ourselves is which puzzle are they going to find first of these 6? Which of these are they going to run into first? I mean, I think this one may be the first puzzle. Sorry. The reason I am asking that question is because this guiding principle that we have, right? Of let me just show you. This guiding principle of broadening boundaries as they progress. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but I think if we can kind of anticipate the order in which they will find these puzzles, we can build a relatively linear expanding of those boundaries, right? And so let's say this is probably going to be the first puzzle. So we can probably make it the most straightforward puzzle and then, expand those boundaries as I spoke on before. So let's start with the storage room. I feel like it could be a very straightforward puzzle because we have so much to work with here. Okay, first of all, if we want this to be one of the first that they see, then we definitely need to... I mean, we can essentially establish some sort of lore that is, you know, whatever is creating this purple... Whatever's creating this temple over here, is some sort of like equal and opposite mystical force that has appeared because the chickens... Sorry, I start to give real lore to the most ridiculous idea. You know, like if there's matter and antimatter, there's chicken jockey and anti-chicken jockey, right? The idea is that any building or any place that has a puzzle that will lead to the solution to get rid of the chickens could potentially, you know, be infiltrated by like these colored blocks. So I can kind of like, you know, like replace. And again, this serves as well later because when it feels convenient, we can also get rid of or like not include the indicator, and so play with their expectations in that way some, right? Just enough. Of course we can do that just for flair all around the building. Yeah, good enough. Okay. There's a, you know, a pretty subtle but like clear visual indicator that maybe they should go in here. Of course, we could even like, assuming we end up using gilded blackstone, place some of the floor with it, maybe kind of emanating out less frequently, like make it most frequent here where I probably will, Isaac's always leaving holes in his buildings, man. Like make it more prevalent here where I'm probably going to place some sort of like sign to some sort of accidental cross imagery here. And then just like less. You may be thinking, like, Steven, why are you so focused on the aesthetics of the puzzle? You haven't even seen me build a puzzle yet. So, like, I don't have any credibility, but what I'm telling you is that the vibes of a puzzle matter almost as much as the mechanics of a puzzle do as far as getting those aha moments go. You are gonna find a person every once in a while who just likes mechanics and doesn't care about anything else. And don't get me wrong, like, I love games like Slay the Spire. I mean, I've played a ton of Slay the Spire, but, like, the reason Balatro popped off, in my opinion, in a way that Slay the Spire didn't, is because they also had a pretty strong focus on, which is not to say Slay the Spire didn't pop off. I don't think that's fair. I just think that Balatro had more of like a cultural moment because it matches its aesthetic and theming to the quality of game mechanics that they put in there, right? So most people do gain value from feeling bought into the world that they're solving the puzzle in or that they're playing the game in. So, you know, you can tell me why I'm wrong in the comments or whatever, that's fine. But I do believe that adding these story elements is going to make the strong mechanics that I hope to implement it even stronger because people want to be immersed, especially when they're getting frustrated or bored. They want to be immersed. So aesthetically, we got an idea here. We might refine that over time, but that we can lean on. Usually, I like to start from the end and work backward. Actually, you know what? I know that I keep acting like, oh, we can finally start, but until I know like where the finish is going to be, it's going to be kind of hard to build a puzzle. So let's figure out which mechanic these puzzles are all going to lead to before we try and start building puzzles from scratch. Now, I think I should probably do some like Googling or some research here, because I know other people have done stuff like this in Minecraft, and I'm sure they have a ton of ideas that I greatly benefit from. I'm not sure if the best route here is for me to just like start poking through items that I'm not familiar with on here, or if it is to just like go look up some stuff. Probably looking up would be the smarter move. Okay, I went and did some peripheral research and learned what probably most of you were screaming at me through the camera when I was talking earlier, which is that there are a ton of ways to use redstone to do all kinds of puzzle mechanics. Like, and I was watching this guy who, again, another person I can just link. I don't really want to, I'm pulling from so many sources. I don't really want to ever leave anyone unmentioned. Watching somebody just talk about like different puzzle room ideas or escape room ideas. And again, I don't want this to be an escape room in the sense of like a lot of those puzzle mechanics, you know, were as simple as, you know, you fill up the cauldron and you fill up the composter, and those, once they're full, the door opens, or like you flip these three like tripwire things around the panel until they face the right direction and the door opens. Like those mechanical ideas can exist within the puzzles I make, but what I prefer is the aha moment of like even realizing that that's what you need to do, right? Or no, maybe the better way to say it is I want an aha like out of the box thinking puzzle mechanic that would like maybe lead you to the solution, right? And that could be maybe the baseline, but the actual solution requires you to either look at your surroundings or put two disparate ideas together. You'll see as we start to build actual puzzles. However, with that video, what was most helpful about that video is that it showed me that you can essentially use a sorting box to open doors using keys, which I'd love to do. I think I'm going to have to get rid of all of the... Here, let's see where they are. I know they're here somewhere. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get rid of all of these trial keys probably from the map. I'll have to find and see if there are any more. But essentially, I can put trial keys. I can have them put trial keys into a chest, and then it will auto sort them. And then once it auto sorts the keys into another place, then the door will open. So I think we can do that kind of mechanic, right? Like essentially you gather a key from each puzzle, and once you have all the keys, you are able to basically open the door to get to the, to see what happens. So I think that's the idea that I want to move or go off of, and that just allows me to decide that each of the end result of each of these puzzles is going to be them receiving a key, right? If we could also do something along the lines of like different skulls on top of pedestals, but really the core idea doesn't change. Of you solve the puzzle, you receive an item that allows you to, once you receive all 6 items, you are allowed to get into the place you're trying to get into. A lot of talking to basically say, now that we can build this puzzle knowing what the goal is, which the goal is to get some sort of key.